Thanks for taking the time to download this BBC Radio 5 Live podcast. To search for other podcasts you might like, click bbc.co.uk/5live, where you'll also find our terms of use.
Welcome to Men's Hour with me, Tim Samuels. Tonight, helping men deal with a spot of mental health trouble. We're not great at coping, whether it's young men or guys in their 40s and 50s. We're just suffering in too much silence. It's all about honesty and candour tonight. Thanks to John Martin and Alan at Tombstone Custom Bikes, who are talking to Paul Waters. With me in the studio and listening into them, we have poet and stand-up Jack Rourke, who had depression as a teenager after the death of his father. Senior psychologist Becky Spelman, and Martin Ling, the former football manager, is still here. Becky, guys fixing motorbikes, having tattoos, it sounds pretty unorthodox, but something in it.
Yeah, absolutely. When people are depressed, they tend to get a really poor balance in their life, or they're far less active. So when people actually focus on their passion and they're achieving things, whatever that might be, that can really help boost people's mood.
Jack, you suffered from depression when your dad died at 15. What pulled you through?
Well, I think I suffered with in particular post-bereavement depression. So, it came from a particular event. So it wasn't necessarily anything kind of medical or herbal remedies, which I tried once that kind of failed, because herbal remedies are really expensive and not very accessible to young people. But kind of, for me, it was finding a creative outlet, and that was writing, which first started off doing writing workshops surrounding poetry and then turned into comedy about mental health and about kind of my experiences.
Becky, why do men still not talk about this stuff? Why do they bottle it up?
Yeah. A lot of men don't actually know that they're depressed, because what they're experiencing is anger, irritability, frustration, a whole range of other emotions, anxiety. And behind all of that might be the sadness that they're not allowing themselves to experience, because men are supposed to be strong. We grow up in a society where men don't believe that they can allow themselves to be vulnerable. So instead of feeling that sadness and recognising the sadness, they might experience a whole range of other negative emotions.
So what sort of behavioural changes should you perhaps look out for?
Just being really angry and irritable, where you might be a lot more patient in those kind of situations in the past. Snapping at people, that kind of thing.
Can you relate to that, Martin?
Yeah, I can, to be honest with you. You seem to be on the edge a lot of the time, and you say the slightest thing can just push you over the edge. And as I say, I sort of describe it as them little decisions that become a major decision in your mind. So sometimes the minutest of things can push you to where you don't want to go.
Jack, do you self-monitor? Do you kind of keep an eye on your behaviour and on your moods and look out for any changes?
Well, I think with me, and especially with young people, young bereaved adults, it's very much a case of trying to stabilise your life, because I think when you go through a disruption in life, that affects your mental health. So for me, I suppose I'm quite lucky in that I've got friends who are quite supportive. I was in touch with a charity called Calm, who I'm now an ambassador for, and they're a male suicide prevention charity, and they mainly deal with kind of destigmatising stigma and mental health as well, because I think a lot of young men feel unable to kind of put their hand up and seek help because there is that stigma of being ashamed or embarrassed about it. And so, I mean, for me, I personally write. That's what I do, and that's what I encourage other young men to do with a comedy night I run called Save the Male. And what we're trying to do is basically because suicide is prevalent in young men, it's the biggest killer of young men. In fact, the ONS reported last week it's the biggest killer of men under 50. And so I personally think that creative expression and writing, or even like doodling, if I'm feeling a little bit annoyed one day, I just doodle on the TV guide, Tim. Yeah. But I think just getting an outlet where you've kind of, you're venting your frustrations in a way that is productive and allows you to kind of look back and monitor how you've been feeling and how you've changed.
The statistics Jack's talking about, Becky, are shocking. It's a huge problem for men, but from where you're sat and from the guys that you see, there is very elementary stuff which can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Jack was talking about just getting those emotions out. So what I tell clients is actually with that sadness, just take some time, allow yourself to feel that sadness. It's a normal emotion. Everyone should allow themselves to feel some sadness in their life, and you can just breathe through that. Just a very simple way of just listening to that sadness and recognising it, but also getting other emotions out like the anger. I say to clients, buy an aluminium baseball bat and slam it down against your mattress for about 2 minutes, and you start to actually feel this emotion that you've been bottling up. And most people report that they feel a release or relief after doing that.
Have you brought one with you?
I haven't. I should have.
Well, we can really release some emotion here. And, you know, the traditional therapy, happy pills and talking cures.
Cognitive behavioural therapy is absolutely great because it consists of the behavioural side of things. It allows people to see that they haven't got the balance just right, and it gets them to start scheduling things so they can actually push themselves to start doing things again, even though it's really difficult. But the thinking side of things as well, just actually writing down your thoughts and starting to challenge them and asking yourself, is there another way of looking at this, is really good. As well as meditation, which starts to help people treat those thoughts in a very different way.